Aloha, good morning, how are you? I hope wherever you're listening to this, you're safe and happy, wherever you are in the world, and you're comfortable in your own skin. One of the phrases that was popping into my head, and okay, a little background. So today is my last day in Pattaya, and so I'm gonna grab a taxi, head up to Suvarnabhumi, Bangkok International Airport, and head back to Los Angeles through Taipei. If you care, I fly EVA Airlines. I like them. I actually like most airlines that are part of the Star Alliance. There's only a few airlines I dislike. Turkish Airways was not a good experience for me. And that said, though, I mean, I have had friends that love Turkish Airways. I don't. I used to have lousy customer service experiences with American Airlines and Delta. American Airlines is adequate lately. Delta is infinitely better. So who knows, right? United, I can't rely on them for any degree of competence. And one of the things, though, that I do like about them, or specifically United.com, and the fact that they're part of the Star Alliance, and I think they're like a founding member or something like this, is that I route all my my points into United.com. So I don't know how you guys travel, but that's worked for me, and then I get to use those booking flights on United.com, which allows me to take other airlines like Thai Airways and EVA, for that matter. So anyway, just a little bit of travel stuff. And so, what would you do? Here's the question. What would you do if you were guaranteed you wouldn't fail? Now, I've asked people that question in with the idea of having them think, you know, outside the box, right? To use a very overused colloquialism, I suppose. But, you know, so I'm walking along this morning and I'm asking myself that very question. And I answered to myself. You guys talk to yourself? I do, and I gotta tell you, the answers are tremendously intelligent. And the short answer is I would stay here. I don't believe, and so I think more so than the answer to the question based on, okay, let me just think outside the box, right? Let me push myself, let me feel the fear and do it anyway, is that I don't believe I would guarantee lack of failure. And it's an interesting perspective, because if I were to ask probably my three closest buddies, they have responded to me like, Nikki, don't worry about it. It's not like you can't find a job. You'll always be able to find another job. Gratefully, I agree with that statement. What I don't believe is that I would be able to find another job equal to the awesome sauce that I get to drink at my current position. The benefits are amazing. The mental stimulation is there. The team is awesome. I'm honored to lead these guys to the best of my ability. My boss is freaking awesome. And he doesn't watch this, so it's not like my boss is really awesome. Raise time. No, my boss is really awesome because he and we collaborate. There's many things that we've done together, learning and teaching, that sort of thing. He went through a similar master's program that I did, or the same master's program that I went through after I did, after he received the master's program by abrasion, by me spouting off all of the learnings that I had, saying, hey, yeah, here's a new word, pay attention to this. We all have lunch like almost every single day. We walk at lunch, which is probably about 3.5 miles, I think. On hello, how are you? Which is about 3.5 miles on campus, or 5K, and that's been stellar. But here's the crazy part, is that amidst all this awesome, right, I still think, yeah, but I kind of want to do something else. And maybe that's just, you know, being spoiled, quite frankly. But what is the other thing that, what soy am I on too? I want to go down soy 3. What is some of the things that I'm wanting to do? And at the end of the day, it's like, I would just really prefer to tour Southeast Asia and check out everything. And I guess be on vacation for the rest of my life, which I know I couldn't do. I mean, coming here for a week is one thing to be on vacation. But the reality of that is that I know that what I would do is I would eventually get to the point where I'd be like, well, I got to do something. And I know that because I've experienced that. When I'm here for 3 to when I'm here for like 2, even when I'm here for 3 weeks in a row. At 2 weeks, I'm still basically like on vacation. At week 3, I'm like, I gotta get online and I gotta like search for some stuff. You know, I gotta get more information. I gotta get more data. I gotta see if there's an opportunity for me to add value somewhere. And humbly, I haven't really found the best way for me to do that. I did share in another video about my idea of the smartphone and putting a $50 smartphone basically in the hands of 1 billion people. I heard this statement, phrase, tagline recently, which is the new billionaire is the person who helps, is the new person who helps, or the new billionaire is the person who helps 1 billion people, not who makes $1 billion. And I want to do that. I'm not quite sure how to do that, but what I think is a good way to do that is to put a smartphone in the hands of 1 billion people. Here's why I think $50 makes sense. If you were to extrapolate the minimum wage in the United States, or let's just say California, because that's the one that I think I'm confident on the number. For the sake of argument, it is $11 an hour. So in the course of a day, you make, let's say you work 8 hours, you make 88 bucks. Over the course of the week, you'll make almost $450. And so I was just rounding that up to basically $500. And I believe that the average person in the United States, the ones I see walking around with these brand new phones, be them iPhones or whatever, and of course for the most part the way people buy cell phones in the United States is they pay them off via a monthly fee as part of their annual contracts they sign with the carrier. The phone is then locked onto the carrier, obviously, and you can't remove it unless, of course, you buy the device off of them. Makes sense, right? And then in other parts of the world, you buy unlocked phones. In fact, I know a buddy of mine who's out of Australia. What's up, Dom? He made the statement, I didn't realize this is some new piece of data I got, is that in Australia it's illegal, actually, it would be illegal for any carrier to demand that the phone be locked to their system. So anyway, interesting contrast perspective. So what I was going with this is, let's say for the sake of argument, the average person in the United States who makes $500 a week spends $500 on a cell phone. Okay, so that means you make 1 week's wages on a cell phone. And, obviously I'm not including tax and all this nonsense, but it was a number that I went with, and then it allowed me to sort of transpose that into the minimum wage over here, with here being Thailand and the Philippines. So the minimum wage here is, as I stated before, it's about 300 baht here, or 300 pesos in the Philippines. And so anywhere from $8 to $10 a day, ish, and then we multiply that by 5 and you get 50 bucks ish, round numbers, right? But my point is it's like, okay, well, if they're willing to spend a week's salary back in the United States, then I can assume, and maybe it's incorrect, you can let me know what you think your opinion is, that we say over here if they spend a week's salary on a phone, then they'll do that. Now, keep in mind that, again, over here, they have to buy that phone. There are ways now, and there hadn't been for a while, where you can in fact buy the phone over the course of the months that you have a plan, a prepaid plan with your carrier, so AIS and DTAC and True and that sort of thing. I've seen on their websites where you basically can say, okay, well, yeah, I'll get this awesome new phone and I'll pay it, you know, $28 a month for it or something like this. So there's that option too, which makes me think that the idea behind 1 week's wages for a smartphone is still pretty valid. So what I need to do, and so if, as I mentioned before, they have Amazon Prime has these phones, the one I'm using now, made by Blue, a company out of Florida, BLU, Bold Like Us, which I didn't realize, but is the best-selling phone, unlocked phone in the U.S. Interestingly enough. And it's a great phone, and it was, for me, it was $60 because I got the one with 16 gigs in it. The 8 gig one is $50, and all I have to put up with is ads on the front. So I am on my lock screen, and then it's you know, populated with Amazon.com ads. Primarily, and of course it's only available to people that are Prime members, and so therefore the ads are for Amazon Prime items. You know what, I don't know right now if the wind is getting picked up by this microphone. I certainly don't have a windsock around it, but it would be, I'll listen back to it obviously, and I'll figure that out. So the idea is to get these phones. I don't necessarily want to use Blue as the manufacturer. A couple of reasons. I actually contacted them and asked them about the frequencies that they're putting in their phones. And I was disappointed to have them respond and say that the frequencies that I questioned them about, meaning the 4G LTE frequencies that are being used over here in Thailand and the Philippines, they're not going to be putting those radios inside the phones. So they're more focused on the US market, European market. That's fine. And it's not like there aren't other manufacturers over anywhere that I can get phones from. Hey, Sadi Crap. And usually the minimum buy-in that I've seen for decent quality phones, anywhere from about $8 if you buy it in volume, or to try the to buy the you know, so here's what's cool, right? I'm like walking around basically talking into my fist in the morning here, and every time I like walk by some, you know, person, they like look up at it and, hey, you know. So that's kind of cool. I love Thailand, man. Everyone over here is so freaking nice. And of course, everyone means that, you know, every now and then I run into someone who's not. But I don't know how many people say, oh my God, everyone in the United States is so nice. I'm grateful to be surrounded by people that are nice. I call them my friends. People that are adequate, I refer to them as my acquaintances. And people that I have no use for, I refer to as lame. So anyway, so I'm trying to figure out the phone thing, but what I want to do, my first thought was, okay, so what is the Amazon.com of over here? And you could argue that it could be AliExpress, or basically Alibaba's online purchasing thing. I would submit it's Lazada, Lazada. If you're in the Philippines and you're watching this, go to laz.ph if you want to buy some stuff. And if you're over here in Thailand, go to lazadathai.com to buy some stuff and check it out. When I first found out about it, I thought, oh yeah, these guys, I mean, because, you know, home delivery, right, like purchasing things online is starting to grow. It's starting to grow like crazy over here. So anyway, so Lazada is pretty cool, and I thought, all right, well, I'll just, you know, reach out to them somehow and say, okay, so like here's this paradigm. I could show them my phone. This is how it's working, and you know, I'm sure I can come up with some rough statistic on then this is how it's generating revenue. Meaning, if you fund a $100 phone by paying for $50 of it, you will get that back within 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or whatever. Additionally, the person who has the phone will continuously see this stuff, and over the course of them owning this phone, let's say they own it for 2 years before they basically break it, or they lose interest in it, or it's not cool enough any longer. So 2 years, maybe they buy, I don't know, 10 more items, and the average price of that item is $50. Who knows? That's stuff I need to figure out. So then I thought, okay, great. So I'll just basically use the Amazon Prime paradigm over here, and it'll be a Lazada phone, right? And I've already seen on Lazada where they have deals with manufacturers like Cherry Mobile, for example, in the Philippines, and I think it's called Oppo over here. I've seen in Thailand, OPPO. The Cherry phones, some of them you can get a pretty good deal on, but everyone I talk to in the Philippines says, oh yeah, but they're cheap, they're not made well. And they, in fact, have preferred this phone that I'm using, that I've sold them for, including a case, and obviously there's a little bit of tax that I gotta pay, for 4,500 pesos, which at the time, that was approximately $100. Right now, that's approximately, well, it's still 4,500 pesos for them. But it's a little bit, 4,500 pesos is now only about $96. Because I think the exchange rate's almost 50, it used to be 45. So, anyway. And I thought, okay, so, they're digging these phones, why don't I, put Lazada into it? But then I thought, well, wait a minute, think outside the box, right? Let's put the ability for any advertiser to basically sign up for a portal, and then they have the ability to put their business inside that ad block, or that little square, or the entire screen, the lock screen, the advertising screen, the phone funding square, based on what they pay. And so then it becomes more like the Google model, which is like, okay, well, if I'm willing to pay $19 for the word flip-flop, then when someone types that in, I'll show up ahead of the guy that's paying 16. AdWords. What makes Google billions every day? So that paradigm seems to work, and so how do you hook that into, oh, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna walk down Soy 6 at like 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. That's always interesting. I would submit it's gonna be dead. So that's something that I'm considering, and so I need to figure that out. So if any of you have a recommendation, actually, where do I want to go? I am going to go to, I'm going to go down here instead. If for no other reason than I've discovered that whenever my buddies walk down freaking Soy 6 with a camera, the girls all go like this, and there's absolutely no value add for me to do that. It's not going to add value to you. It's not like you can't find a video of some guy walking down Soy 6 in Pattaya, for Christ's sake. So, no value add there. Pardon me. And, so, anyway, I was thinking about how to do that, and I like the portal idea, because I think that lends more opportunity for it, rather than just making it available via Lazada. But again, what's going to get the phones into the hands of the first 100 people, first 100,000 people? I've now got the phone in the hands of 4 people. And my girlfriend said there's 4 more people that want to buy these phones. Now the rub, and I haven't quite figured out why they do this, is that as an Amazon Prime member, you're the only ones who can buy these phones, and you can only buy one. And I don't understand that. Why would you limit? Anyway, but they want to buy these phones. They would rather spend this amount of money on this phone that is basically a no-name brand phone over in the Philippines. Because I don't know exactly, I've been told, Gracie tells me that it's because it's a higher quality. People believe it's a higher quality. Could be, I like it. I mean, I'm using it. I, believe it or not, accidentally threw away my Huawei 6P, Nexus 6P that I had from Googlefy in the trash one morning. That'll teach me to not have coffee before I take my trash out in the morning. So anyway, so that's what I'm trying to figure out, and I'm curious, you entrepreneurial types, what you think about that idea. I'd like some input, because I think it's a great idea, but you know, I have a sample size of 4 right now that like it, and I've shopped this idea around to a couple of buddies, and they say that's great, and I think it's great in their mind based on the fact that Mike's has a lot of passion for getting this phone in the hands of 1 billion people because of the story that I tell, which is it helped this guy feed his family for a week. Or more accurately, it helped him guarantee that he would feed his family for a week. In the sense that in the past, he'd been successful at feeding his family day by day, and I am gonna walk through this way. But now he was, you know, he shared that he was able to guarantee it for a week, which I assume removes stress. I would bet most of you watching this video have never considered not having food. And I'm not talking because you're living in La Jolla or Coronado, or I'm talking about, you know, many of my friends from the Philippines and Thailand. And you know, here's a common thing. When I would meet new people from the Philippines and they would sort of describe, you know, what it was like growing up, that sort of thing, for whatever reason we would get on that topic. One of the sort of litmus tests I discovered for them about having a quality childhood is they would make a statement similar to, well, we weren't rich, but we weren't poor, and we had 3 meals every single day. Sounds, you know, and our parents loved us, you know. Spoiler alert, that's not, that last part, I've sadly observed that that's not happening a whole lot in the US. But we've got money. So anyway, that's a quality of life discussion. But I think that's what this whole thing is about, right? It's like, how do you improve the quality of the lives of someone else using the brain that you have? How do I improve the quality of life of someone else using the gifts that I have been given? Silhouette, sorry. Not the least of which is the ability to go to college. To have a great grade school, you know, and that sort of thing. So it's like, well, shit, dude, you know, I've been given this brain to use, and I've got some experience, strength, and hope that I think I can share. So how do I help others? I don't know. I'm trying, you know. How do you help others? I guess that's the real thing, right? Like, how do you help others? I guess the first question is, do you think this idea that I have is a good idea? And the second is, how do you help others? So maybe I'll be like, well, wait a second, you're helping others already. Maybe what I do is, instead of coming up with this new idea on my own, I help you help others. I don't know. Anyway, that's my little discussion this morning. I am sad to be leaving Thailand. I would prefer to be getting on a plane and going to Boracay, honey. But that's coming in, I think, 3 weeks, so that's cool. So anyway, this is around Thanksgiving in the US, so hopefully you had a great Thanksgiving. And I hope you're living the dream, because if you're not living the dream, you're doing it wrong. Ciao.